Good morning. Welcome to the Subtle Secrets of Pranayama. This is my 30-day challenge. And today's day 23, and we're going to be looking at putting the four parts of the breath together. So I want to talk about what the four parts of the breath are, and then we'll talk about how you put them together into a really healthy pranayama practice, as opposed to pranayama practices that can cause challenges or problems to your nervous system. So we've been going through, we've spent a lot of time on the inhale, spent a lot of time on the exhale. We talked about structural breath. We talked about belly breathing. We talked about three-part breath. And then we talked about suspension and retention, which are called kumbhaka in Sanskrit. And, I didn't talk too much about kumbhaka, but kumbhaka, when you look at the literature, the older texts about kumbhaka, they say kumbhaka is the place where something shifts, right? It's the place where we kind of absorb something powerful, or you touch the infinite. It's sort of those ideas. And this is also true in terms of the nervous system. Well, maybe we don't touch the infinite with the nervous system, but true in terms of the nervous system, in terms of something shifting, like shifts at the top of the inhale and something shifts at the base or the bottom of the exhale. So those are two places that are really interesting to spend some time. However, we want to be so careful with the mechanics of the breath that we're not doing inhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold. Exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold. Right? It has to be very smooth, and Patanjali says the breath should be smooth and subtle. And what I've found, and what many other people have reported, I've found personally in my meditation practices, there'll be times when my breath naturally pauses. And those are places of strong concentration and places where you feel a deep connection to interconnectedness and sense of oneness. So those are important places to experiment with and to find. And I think a lot of times these practices evolved in response to things that were happening spontaneously in the nervous system to begin with. So it's, and then saying, oh, this happens spontaneously in the nervous system. How can I replicate it? So thinking about it like that, thinking about these practices as things that are kind of natural and things that have evolved out of practice is more useful than thinking about them as ways to impose practices from the outside on your nervous system, and therefore imposing certain states on the nervous system that may or may not be desirable, right? So I think that's an important way to approach your practices, smooth and subtle. There's a very fine line between meditation and pranayama. It kind of smooths into each other rather than a firm demarcation. And those are interesting places to explore what is happening in this intersection of meditation and pranayama. Very important to explore. As I come towards the end of the challenge, I would certainly appreciate your feedback and your comments on what you would like to do in the next 30 days. I am thinking about meditation, but we could do anything. So let me know. So going back to those four parts of the breath, of course, the four parts of the breath can be the inhale and the pause at the end of the inhale, which we can call retention, the exhale, the pause at the end of the exhale, which we can call suspension. And what you want to think about in terms of the retention and the suspension is that these are pauses in your breath, but they're continuations of whatever you're doing. So as you're inhaling, there's a pause, and it feels like the muscles keep expanding, muscles in the chest. And as you exhale, the navel draws in, there's a pause, and at the end, it's as if you keep exhaling. So let's try that a few times together this morning. As you inhale, allowing the belly to expand a bit, and then lower ribs, and then into the chest, and pause as if the breath keeps spiraling out, kind of moving out from you. And as you exhale, then let the breath come down, spiral in. At the end of the breath, keep spiraling. I like this image of spiraling because it's a little more accurate to what's actually happening to the tissues too. It's not just like inflating, it's more kind of unfolding. So let's do that again. So inhaling, pausing up at the top of the inhale. And remember, your inhale could be one, or your pause could be 1 or 2 counts, maybe 3 at the most. And then exhaling back down. And pausing at the end of the exhale. You can do a few more times, and I'll keep talking as you're practicing. Now, as you're inhaling, the thing to avoid is, and you can see it in my neck muscles, is right, that holding. Instead, we want it soft, less muscle stuff going on in the neck, and then the exhale again, soft. So less engagement. These are tertiary neck muscles. We don't want them to fire while we're doing that pause. I mean, they're going to a little bit, of course, because they're part of the process, but we don't want to overuse those muscles. That's what pumps up the nervous system, which we don't want. And the end of the exhale, you can feel a little sense like the belly's drawing in here at the end of the exhale. But again, it's not a clenching. It's very soft. It's a softness. And then you just let the breath go. The end of the, the end of the exhale can be just sort of like this really, really relaxed, soft place. But if you notice that you're doing this at the end of it, that means you pushed your breath, right? And the number one rule of pranayama, the number one guideline is never, ever push your breath. It should be smooth and subtle and soft and comfortable. So I hope this has been helpful for you today. I'm taking tomorrow off. Because why not? Because it's Sunday. So I'll be back on Monday. We'll talk more about the subtle secrets of pranayama. Please leave your comments and your questions, and thank you for being here. Namaste.